Watching Inspired Overflow, maybe you're watching us live on Facebook right now. I want to welcome you, or maybe you are listening to us for the very first time. Hey guys, welcome. Here at Inspired Overflow, we are more than just a radio show. We are a ministry designed to help you live your best life in Jesus Christ. And so what we try to do each and every day is provide a platform for individuals to come on and to share their powerful stories of faith. Y'all know that God is a healer. God is a miracle worker. He's doing amazing things in the lives of all of his people. And here at Inspired Overflow, we really just exist to provide a platform to point the way up to Jesus Christ. And so you guys, I'm really looking forward to our guest. She's a woman of God, and she's written a book, okay? And her book really answers the question, God, why did you allow my child to die? So for those of you that are joining in on Facebook Live, or those of you that are listening on the radio, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to call. I want you to text. I want you to tag somebody on social media and let them know that this is an important conversation, especially to mothers and fathers, those of you that are grieving the loss of loved ones. This is the conversation that we are having today. So for the first time ever, I want to welcome to the Inspired Overflow radio show, author Crystel Conner. Crystal, welcome to Inspired Overflow.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Krystal, you have somebody in the studio with you today, your daughter. I'm going to ask her to help, okay, because I'm trying to do a couple of different things. And so, your daughter, Kyra, is here. And so, she's going to flip that camera around on Facebook Live, and she's going to come up closer so you can see Mom and me. And so that way we want to make sure that our entire viewing audience is able to connect with today's show, because I believe that today's topic is really an appointed topic. And Crystal, when we first connected over social media, you were telling me about your book. Your book is called Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him.
Yes.
One mother's journey of understanding after the death of her son.
Yeah.
That's the name of your book. And so I want you to just share with the listeners and with the viewers about why you decided to write this book.
I decided to write this book because I was in a place for 2 years. I was in a very, very dark place for 2 years. And I read self-help books, and, I read books about grieving, and, but none of the books that I read dealt with the anger factor. None of them dealt with, God, I'm mad at you for allowing my son to be killed. I'm mad at you for not saving his life when I know that you could have. So I had to get to a place in myself where I could get out of that dark place, because it is so, so real. And only parents who have lost a child knows this type of darkness. If you've never lost a child, you would never understand the place that it takes you, and the pain that you feel is unlike any other.
One of the things, so I do want to compliment you, because when I read your book, you sent me a message and you said, Casey, if you can get through the first 2 chapters, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But those first 2 chapters were rough.
Yeah.
But I compliment you because even though I haven't had a child and I haven't lost a child due to violence, you did a great job explaining that agony of the last conversation you had with your son, and to hearing that he had been shot, and going to the hospital, and the last images of you being separated from that wall, but him laying out there and you having that time with your son. So for those that haven't read your book before, Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him, One Mother's Journey of Understanding After the Death of Her Son, I want you to share about the last conversation with your son on May the 25th, 2015, and just let us know a little bit about who your son was.
My son was, he was such a funny kid. He always made people laugh, and he was just an outgoing kid, and he loved people. And I called him, it was Memorial Day, and I had just left my sister Susie's house, and I called him, and I had my daughter Kyra and my oldest son Naeem in the car, and my grandson was with us, and we were on our way to go pick him up, and I called him, and he said, hey, Mom. I said, hey, son, where you at? He said, Mom, I'm not even there yet. I said, okay, well, how long you going to be? He said, I'm not sure. Just come get me in the morning. And we'll go pick up my report card because it was the last week of school. We'll go pick up my report card. And, I put all my grades up, so you owe me. He chuckled and had me laughing. And he asked where everybody was. And I said, your siblings are in the car. Your nephew's in the car. And he was like, Mom, I love you so much.
Yeah. And one of the things that I find so interesting, right? When we know it's not really interesting, but it's the handprint of God.
Yeah.
That would be one of the last things that
But
he
said.
And
it was so funny because I couldn't see that until after I came out of this dark place. I couldn't see God in that last conversation until I had to come out of that place. And once I came out, I don't know if y'all can still hear me. I hear static. But once I came out of that place, I was able to see my son in a way that I couldn't see him before. So I was able to laugh at that conversation because now I can see God. Even though I couldn't see him at the time, I can see his handprint now. You know what I'm saying? And still showing me, I got him. I got him. So we just have to get to that place that we can see them in a different way.
And so that's our purpose for today on this broadcast, because you're going to help those that are grieving the loss of their son or the loss of their children. You went through this journey to get to the place to now be able to see the handprint of God. For those of you that are just now tuning in the car, or maybe you're just now tuning in on Facebook, we're joined in the studio with author Crystel Conner. She's written a book called Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him, One Mother's Journey of Understanding After the Death of Her Son. Now, Krystal, we know that this is a nationally broadcast radio show, so people from all over the country are listening, but we are based in St. Louis, with St. Louis being really the murder capital of the nation, unfortunately. Right, and so your son, he was shot. Shot at the age of 16, and he lost his life.
He did.
Yes, and so you've written this book called Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him. And so I want to talk about some of these issues that you needed to press it. First of all, tell us, what does that title mean?
So I studied the woman with the issue of blood and how she pressed her way at all costs. She took her healing without anybody knowing it. She took it. She pressed her way until she got it. Mm-hmm. So I studied that and I looked at that in a different way. Because if she had the press way back then, I know that God equipped us with this thing on the inside of us that we can press our way and we can get through it if we keep going. We can't get stuck. And we can't get stuck in the death of our children. And that's what happens with a lot of parents. We don't know how to move forward after the loss of our kids. We don't know how to get back into the groove of things because we no longer have a normal. You know what I'm saying? Our normal that used to be is no longer there. So we have to become accustomed and become equipped to a different type of daily norm. Not a norm that we've been, used to doing every day. I wake my 3 kids up every morning. So now I only have 2 that I have to wake up. So you know what I'm saying? So you have to keep going. Yeah. So I studied that. And I was like, God, I got an issue with you. I do. I got an issue with you because I know you could have saved my son. It's people that get shot 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times and they still walking around. My son got shot once and you took him. We got to have a conversation. So I was really, really angry with God for a long time. And I'm still in church, still going about my daily life, still functioning, but I'm mad at God. And I had to get to a place again where I had to pull myself up out that darkness because I know that there was greater in me. And I knew that there was a calling on my life and I couldn't stay in that period of time. And that's exactly what it was. A period of time, a period of sorrow that I had to pull myself out of. So I had to press my way. And one of my issues was anger. God, I got to press this anger. We got to talk. I'm so upset. So I had to press that anger. I had to press to get an understanding of why, and it's always the why factor. It's hard for parents to sleep because they don't know why. They don't know why. Why my child? Why? Why this? Why that? So it's that why factor. And I had to get understanding. So I had to keep going and keep going until I could get to a place where, okay, God, now it's me and you. We got to talk.
Yeah. And I think one of the most pivotal parts in your book, Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him, One Mother's Journey of Understanding at the Depth of Her Son. You guys, this is a book that's written by Crystel Conner. It's now available on Amazon.com. But one of the pivotal parts in your book is when you said after a period of 2 years, when you just weren't talking to God, you were so angry and upset, still serving, but you hadn't had that conversation, but you find yourself in the car and you just start screaming.
I did.
Tell us about that.
I was leaving, I'm not quite sure where I was leaving from, but I was going over the bridge, going back home because I live in Illinois. And I went across the bridge and I was going across the water and it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks and I just snapped and I just screamed, God, why didn't you save my son? I know you could have saved his life. And it was at that point God said, oh, now you want to talk? Okay, let's talk. So we had a conversation and he really just broke it down to me. He said, you will never understand, ever. You will never understand life the way that I understand it. My thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways. Although your son loved you, you were his pride and joy. You could not contain what he would have become. So I'm like, but God, he was my son. He said he was mine before he was yours. Mm-hmm. He was the gift that I gave you. And when I tell you he's with me, he is here with me. So I kind of had to get myself together because God just really went off on me, like for real. This ain't about you is what it was basically. This is not about you. I need you to understand everything that I do for the betterment of my children. If I would have allowed him to stay there, it would have been way, way worse. And nobody would have been able to contain it. So I'm going to keep him here with me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get to that place of understanding where, okay, God, okay, I kind of get it now.
Yeah.
And,
one of the things that I think is, God is so gracious and merciful that in your book you talk about that you went through this extended time not talking to God.
I did.
But when you were ready, he was ready to respond.
Was. And it's just the attributes of who God is. He never left me. He was always there. He was waiting on me. And because he's such a gentleman, mm-hmm. he didn't force it. Whenever you're ready to talk, I'm going to be right here. Yeah.
In your book, you talk about that you had to make the decisions to bury your son, what type of casket your son would have, while other mothers were picking out limos and, picking out prom dresses and suits for their daughters and sons.
It was a hard reality.
Yeah.
It was. It was a hard reality. It was the end of the school year, prom, and everybody, picking out what color dresses and tuxes they're going to wear, but I have to pick out a casket for my son, This is his this is his last ride. I got to pick out what he's going to wear. But I thank God that I had a support system like no other. I didn't have to go buy his stuff. Somebody did that for me. Mm-hmm. I told him what I wanted. She made it happen. You know what I'm saying? So I had a support system that was like, hey, you don't have to lift a finger. Whatever you want us to do, we'll do it. And you have to have that. It is a must that you have a support system when you go through the loss of a child. You absolutely have to. For them to pop up when you don't want to see nobody. You know what I'm saying? For them to call you when you don't feel like talking. For them to just come sit with you when you don't want to say a word. And they understand your silence. They don't force you into anything. They don't try to say stuff. Because and this is a misconception of people who have never lost a child. If you have never lost a child, don't ask a parent what happened. Just say, I'm praying for you. Because the translation gets lost. And then you take them to a whole other place. Because when people ask me, even today, I didn't know what happened. It takes me back to that day all over again. It takes me back to May 25th when I got that phone call at 11:08. It takes me back to our last conversation. You know what I'm saying? So it puts people in a place that they are trying their best to come out of, Oh, well, you should, and I've had people inbox me, girl, you should be past that. What? Come on now. And I have to remember because I snapped. There is no getting past it. You just learn how to incorporate, and you have to get to that point where you can incorporate that pain instead of taking it on all at once Incorporate it into your day by day where it's not as heavy and you can still function and you can still move. But we miss our children every single second of every single day. Every single day we miss him. I think of him every second of every day. Even though I'm at work and I'm functioning, he's still in my frontal lobe. He's still right here. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get to a place where we can keep going and not get stuck in the death of our children. We have to.
You guys were joined in the studio with Crystel Conner. She's written a book called Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him. One mother's journey of understanding after the death of her son. Her book is available on Amazon.com. You know, Krystal, I mentioned earlier that living in the St. Louis area where crime and violence is unfortunately very rampant, especially among African American men, I would imagine there are many mothers that are grieving the loss of their sons, mothers and fathers, and there hasn't been any settling to the case. Like the case may still be open, you know, it may be cold.
Yeah.
In your book, you talked about wanting revenge and your children wanting revenge. How did you settle that part?
You know, for a while, you know, I come from an era, and I always tell people, I come from an era where if you hit me, I owe you a lick back. That was a major hit for me. So it was hard for me not to revert to what I come from. You know, it was hard for me not to get in some all black and go sit in somebody's crib and wait on them to get home. It was really hard for me to move that factor out of the way. So I said, you know what? I got to get off Facebook and I got to get off of social media, because social media was that demon that fueled my anger. Because the young men who took my son's life, who killed, well, they didn't take his life, but they shot him. So those who shot him were bragging about it on social media. And, you know, I would send emails to detectives, hey, I really need you all to do something. I don't want any more bloodshed. Don't want any more bloodshed. And that's what's going to happen, because my son's friends and his cousins and everybody else was on a war rampage, and it was no calming them down. So for me, it was like, okay, let me get myself together. But the more I saw it, the angrier I got and the madder I got. And I'm calling St. Louis County Police Department. They're not answering or returning my calls. I'm leaving voicemails. I'm sending emails. No response. And I'm seeing this on Facebook and on Instagram, and they bragging about my son's death like it was a trophy or something. And anger just took over. And I'm like, God, I can't function like this. So I had to go stay with my now First Lady and Pastor Shadrach and Lady Tiffany Martin. And they allowed me a sanctuary to get myself together, because I knew I had a calling on my life again. I knew that. And I could not let this period of time win. And the enemy was in my ear reminding me why you're mad, why you're angry, you know, you should do this and you should do that. So I had to get in a safe place of covering. And they allowed me to come to their home. They allowed me to stay there for however long I needed to be there for me to get myself together.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that. You know, they prayed for me when I was asleep. You know, so I'm grateful for the support system that I have. My support system is amazing. And I thank God for the people that He's placed in my life, because everybody doesn't have that. And I just want to be a heart or some arms or a hand to somebody to hug another mother, to say, hey, you're not walking through this alone. I know what you feel. I know what you're going through. Because it's not easy. And it's not easy to pick up pieces and try to continue on with your life, because your life is forever altered and it will never be the same. So you have to find a press in you to keep going. You have to find a press in you, and everybody has it. Everybody's press may not be the same, but everybody has a press where they have to keep going. You can't get stuck. You cannot get stuck. You got to keep going.
And you know, that's why I like your book, because the title is Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him. I can imagine, you know, after losing your son, you know, there's this fight.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, I'm angry.
Yeah.
Why you take my son? You know, I served you.
Absolutely.
You know, why it had to be my son?
Absolutely.
You know, so there's this fight. There's this tug of war. But, you know, you received revelation, God's grace, where you said, look, I can't kick against the prick.
Absolutely.
You know, I need to take this to God, and I can be real, and I can be transparent.
Absolutely.
And I can be raw. And even at that place, God can heal.
And it was just me and God. You know what I'm saying? It was just me and God, and I could yell, I could scream, I could do whatever it was that I wanted to do to get it off of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had to get it off of me. So I gave it all to God.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, because I was going to lose my mind.
Sure.
I was going to lose, literally, I was losing my mind. And everybody around, those that know you can see you going before you can. And I was always like, I'm good, I'm okay. Couldn't be farther from the truth. I was literally in a place where I was about to lose my mind.
For those of you that are tuning in, I want you guys to do me a favor, okay? I want you to share this broadcast. There's somebody that you know in your church family or in your personal family that needs to hear Crystal's testimony and her transparency. I want you to share this broadcast. I want you to also purchase her book. Maybe you haven't lost a loved one, but you know someone that has. Yeah. Her book, Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him, One Mother's Journey of Understanding After the Death of Her Son, by author Crystel Conner. It's available on Amazon.com. For those of you that are listening, maybe you're at your desk or your office, you're not on Facebook, but you want a copy of today's broadcast, I want you to email me at casey@inspiredoverflow.com, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of today's broadcast, because this is ministry, and we want to make sure that whoever needs to be ministered to, they'll be able to see this interview. So, because I believe that God's going to speak to their hearts. Krystal, we're wrapping up with our time. Any final words of advice, tips, tools for that mom or dad that's grieving the loss of a child?
You know, just trust God in everything. Again, for me, I had to get to a place of understanding with God, because I was angry. So I had to get to a place of understanding and got on the same page. See, when you go against the grain, it never works. So I had to learn how to not go against what God was doing and against what He was saying, and I had to get on the same page with God. And so I had to press that issue with God. And I just encourage mothers and fathers who have lost children, have a conversation with God. Mm-hmm. Don't be stuck in anger. Don't be stuck in unforgiveness. Don't be stuck in that frustration, because you'll never be able to move forward. You'll always be right there. And we, again, get stuck in the death of our children, and it's hard to move from that. It is really, really hard. So you have to know, God, I'm going to ride with you, and I need you, to have a conversation so we can get this together.
Yeah. I'm reminded of my spiritual mother, Apostle Barbara McLean, where she says God is not intimidated by our mess.
Absolutely.
And so it reminds me, God's not intimidated by our anger, by our rage, by our questions. He's not intimidated.
Right.
He's God. Crystal, are there any support groups or social media organizations that you would recommend for grieving parents?
There's a support group called Angel Parents that I'm a part of, and we get to go vent. You need people who can understand what you're dealing with to talk to. So it's a group, and we get to vent, and we get to say how we feel and what we're going through and what we're dealing with. The young lady's name is Mrs. Johnson on Facebook, and you can tag her, and she'll add you, just so you can have a support system if you don't have one, to where you can go and you can outlet. You can scream, you can cry, you can do whatever it is you feel like you're dealing with at that moment, and nobody will judge you, because we all understand.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I mentioned that your book, Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him, One Mother's Journey of Understanding After the Death of Her Son, your book is available on Amazon.com, but you also have an upcoming book signing.
I do.
Let us know about that.
It is on November the 18th from 2 to 4 at Kenny Couture Glam Suite on North Union Boulevard. I believe it's 701, I think, North Union. But I'll post it on my Facebook page, and I'll tag you in it as well. Wonderful. So that people can see it if they would like to come. And I really it's not even if they don't purchase the book, I just want to hug them. Mm-hmm. I want them to know that I feel your pain. I'm walking this walk with you. You are not alone. You're not by yourself. And so many times moms feel like they're so alone, because I felt so alone. Nobody understood. Even though I had a support system, I still felt like I was all by myself. So I just want to encourage the hearts of mothers who have lost their children senselessly and prematurely that it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong, and you can't go against a decision that God has made. So, and I was beating myself up about a decision. It wasn't even mine. It was God's decision. So we have to get in that place where we're okay with God doing what God does, and that's looking out for his children.
Yeah, Krystal, I feel like God is just saying, well done. He's pleased with you. He's pleased with you. You have shared your story with grace, with poise,
Amen.
and with love and strength. We have about 30 seconds until we end today's broadcast. A quick prayer.
Father God, I just want to thank you. I want you to encourage the hearts of the mothers and fathers, oh God, who have lost children. Let them know you in a different way, oh God. Allow them to see you in a light they have never seen you before. Heal the broken pieces, oh God. And I ask you this right now in the name of Jesus. We pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, you guys, I pray that you've been blessed with the testimony of Crystel Conner. I want you to support her and purchase her book called Pressing the Issue with God and Not Against Him, One Mother's Journey of Understanding After the Death of Her Son. It's available on Amazon.com. Krystal,
Yes.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, until next week, we'll be here, same time, same place. Until then, peace out. Wonderful, Chris.